Fractures my skull, C1, C4 fracture, and I die.
Wow.
C1 fracture. You're dead. It's a light switch. And then my body goes off the car, and it threw me 100 feet. My lifeless body.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was a nurse 2 cars back, jumped out of her car, ran over, and started doing CPR.
Captain Jimmy, with his heart made of steel, fighting great white sharks, his scars reveal. On stormy waters, spirit ignites. Together we're warriors, ready for the fight. Raise your arms high, let the thunder roll. Out on the water, where the brave will prevail. Together we rise, like a ship in the gale. Healing and fueling, with every battle we brew. Our love keeps the anthem, for me and for you.
Yeah, dude, that smoked me.
We actually haven't, my girlfriend actually paid for the trip last week. That was kind of impromptu. And then we got another not lucky trip for Bluefin Tuna with the same people coming up here in a few weeks. I go down to Peru at the end of this month for 10 days. Angela, the lady that was just texting me about doing Ivy game with the Pygmies last night in Africa. She's supporting our Sheep's Head tournament. Her foundation is, and then she's actually having me go down and hang out with her. What's that? Just clip.
Like most of my videos, I thought about cutting this podcast setup portion out, but like we had already started talking, and I think there's some good information in here for everybody. Just turn it on, play it in the background, and just listen. It's a podcast. That's what it's meant for. Maybe while you're driving your car or something, just let it go.
Totally different experience than some people are having, because like my former company commander, he did that. He said, I'm never going back there again.
Ayahuasca is a weird one, man. Ivy game is probably where I swear I always tell veterans to start at. Ivy game's a lot different. Yeah, it's a lot, man. You're not.
He said it was great because he sorted through a lot of stuff, and he's not the same person again. You know, it changed him completely. But he's like, I don't ever want to go back there again. I don't know what he saw. He didn't tell me, but
Yeah, for me, ayahuasca is pure love. I did it for the first time last summer. I went down to a guy from a dude that used to be a full bird in the NSA sent me down to Peru in the Amazon for 10 days. I did 8 ayahuasca ceremonies, 4 bufo ceremonies, and then this time I'm going for 9 or 10 days, and I think we're doing 5 ceremonies, 6 ceremonies, something like that.
wow.
It's fun. Yeah, I've done Ivy game 4 times. I enjoy it. I don't know if enjoy it's the right word. I like the, I like what happens afterwards. I like the benefits.
Yeah, it's about the journey.
Well, yeah, and all the science behind it, right? You know, you can reverse brain damage, you can grow gray matter, you can shut off addiction receptors, you reset all your serotonin and glutamine receptors, and all of those things. You know, reverse ibogaine, reverse ages the brain and average of 1.5 years per flood dose.
I like what happens afterwards.
Gets rid of chronic pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to not be able to jog. I couldn't jog, until last year. My 3rd time taking ibogaine, I was like, this is weird. I want to run on the beach. It's wild. Yeah. Took my buddy to triple amputee. He got rid of his chronic pain for a while until he started drinking again. Oh yeah, it's wild stuff, man.
Okay. Wow.
It's pretty rad. I like it.
Is that the helmet? What the?
That was my Mitch in Iraq. Closing that one there.
Yeah, is that alright?
Yeah, man. Do your thing, buddy. I'll take a look at the camera too before I sit down and get set up.
Yeah, let me know if I need to move left or right.
No, you're good, homie. Oh, you'll be good. We'll do the camera. Ugh. I'll have she crap.
So you gonna go watch football this afternoon or no?
It depends where you guys going. We're good, man. I don't really do that. I'm a weirdo with football, man. We can talk that on camera or off camera if you want. It's a very toxic culture. The whole football thing is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
sorry, hold on.
we can.
Sorry.
We can
Just
yeah.
go ahead and start rolling.
Yeah.
man.
So football is it's that, you know, joined the Army at 19, grew up in a house in central New York, wasn't really a football culture then, but you're in for 20 and all these other guys are, you know, into football and everything, and you do 20 years, you don't have time. You're running and gunning, you don't have time. And then you retire and it goes back to the list, just to start off like shotgun blast to the face, of like the list of things that veterans used to do, but they don't do anymore. You know, as simple as reading a book, you know, reading books or whatever. You know, there's guys that isolate themselves, veterans that isolate themselves. I isolated myself for a long time. Veterans are isolating themselves and not even knowing they're isolating themselves. It just progressively turned into a form of isolation. But for me, it took a long time, moved back to the States, gone for 30 years. And like, I can finally have a football team. You know, as we talk, we'll get through things. There's several revelations where like after my vehicle accident, where I was like, you know, you wake up and I can't be a soldier anymore. I'm not going to be a ranger. I'm not going to be a Green Beret anymore. The revelation out of that for me was like, I don't ever have to, if I don't want to, I don't ever have to hurt anybody again in my life. I don't have to hurt anybody. I don't have to be what I thought I was put on this planet for, to go do bad things to bad people in the name of God, country, and apple pie. And I was, you know, I was good at it. And I knew I could be good at it at a very young age, you know? And, yeah, so like, you get out, and football was one of those things. I get to have a football team now. And I'm a Bills fan. I'm from, you know, Camillus, New York, right there by Syracuse, like, what, an hour and a half from Buffalo. So, of course, go Bills. And, and you know, join the Bills Mafia and just all in. And so it became a positive activity for my wife and I to do once a week. Again, the isolation, to try to defeat isolation. I'm in my house. I'm still a 55-year-old vet. I don't work. I have a business. I'm a CEO, founder of Wild Jaeger, and, you know, board of director member of Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures. But I don't leave my house, man. I don't leave my property. You know,
Oh, wow.
People don't. On the outside, you go to the YouTube channel, you go to Instagram. It looks like Ricky's. You know. I put up a great face, like the stuff I'm posting right now as I'm traveling. Ricky's travels. You know, it's all a facade. I'm on my way to Florida because I'm a snowbird, because my body really hurts in New York. It just sucks, and I get tired of shoveling snow. But I make it look really cool. But football has been a reason to get out of the house once a week. Let's go to Sports Bar X, depending on what time the game is, and depending on how long we'll be open, and sit there for 3 hours and spend some time with my, that's a chance for me to invite somebody over and sit down and be a human.
It's a purpose.
Be a civilian.
Yeah, it's a kind of a purpose.
Yeah.
Get you going.
Give me things other than my military time, which, you know, when you get two Army guys together, what do? They fall back right onto what they were doing in the military. It becomes almost 100%. The spouses hate that. The kids hate that. So when my kids fly in now, you know, hey, you know, you watching the Bills game? You know, did you see it? And so, yeah, that's football.
Yeah, man, I used to watch football. I used to go to college football games, and then 2009 was my first deployment of Ranger Battalion. My first Ranger mission was Objective Berlin. We lost 2 guys on that mission, and I think we started at Erickson the other end, 9,000 feet, and ended up at like 11, 12,000 feet, like chased bad guys through the mountains for 20 hours, like killing them and all this fun stuff. And obviously it sucked, right? I mean, you're at elevation and stuff. And then I remember later on watching, we were overseas that same deployment, and watching I don't remember if it was a clip or it was on a game or what I was watching. And, you know, these guys are at Mile High Stadium, and they got their oxygen mask on, and then you got the commentators calling them warriors and all this. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
I was like, that's weird. And then, so I kind of started getting out of it around then.
Yeah.
Then, fast forward to now, you know, our country's the world probably, but more specifically, our country's in a really weird place, man. There's a lot of division. I'm pretty anti-government. Like, I'm not an anarchist by any stretch, but I'm not a big government guy. Not a big pharma guy. Don't like that. Definitely don't like pedophiles. Don't like that. And really, you know, by the numbers, the NFL and the football culture kind of supports all those things. And then you look at it from me, like, you know, my whole life's purpose is helping the veteran community and all that. And all this is very personal. All of my friends, except for very, very few of them, love football, watch football. I'll turn on the game, like, or if they turn on a game or want to go do it as a social thing, I do it. I just don't support it, right? Because, you know, the salute to the troops. They made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. The NFL did. So that was a pay-to-play game. So our tax dollars were going to the NFL to support troops. Then once they found that out, they were like, and they actually found fraudulent claims in there, bills, if you will, like invoices. So out of the millions upon millions of dollars, the NFL only returned $700,000 to the taxpayers. Then you move on, and then all they did was created basically a bunch of little nonprofits, and now the money moves so much you can't really keep track of it. So they didn't really change their ways, they just covered their tracks, right? And then up until 2015, the NFL actually never paid federal taxes, right? So their commissioner was making over $40 million a year, and not paying anything to help the people that are making him and all of his people rich. So then, as far as they go with veterans, since the NFL's inception, they've claimed to have donated $75 million to charitable veteran organizations. Then you look at social justice movements, which I'm all about equality and all that, but true equality, not politically biased equality. You know, since 2020, they've donated over $400 million, almost $500 million to organizations, you know, like BLM. And I mentioned them specifically because they really supercharged a lot of those riots that cost the country billions of dollars, created a lot of division, and a lot of fraud was found in there, a lot of misappropriated funds. So I just don't, I can't. For me, I can't get behind it, you know, because like you turn on a TV, like that's revenue, right? You buy a jersey, that's revenue, right? And one, I can't afford things like that, and two, I mean, I just can't. I can't watch it. I think it's bad for. I think it's bad for our youth. You got, I'm not good with football players' names, but like you got Taylor Swift's husband.
Yeah, Kelsey.
Yeah, you know, he's on podcasts talking about he'll meet anybody in a parking lot and fight him to the death like Mortal Kombat. Like this is what our kids look up to. And I just think it's toxic. You know, then you move on. You got the former University of Miami quarterback convicted of child porn charges and basically just removed from the team. It was swept under the rug. Then move on to the bigger stage. You have Nickelodeon's one of their big executive producers of over 25 years got rolled up in a big child sex thing, right? Like, you know, touching children and stuff that he was supposed to be helping, and basically that was a pay to play, right? Like, hey, I'm going to give you this role and make you big and make you rich, but you're going to do some dirty things for me. And then, oddly enough, that's all in the headlines. That's a really big thing. And then, lo and behold, the Super Bowl and Nickelodeon, the NFL and the Nickelodeon come together for the first time ever to bring the kids Super Bowl or whatever it was with Nickelodeon that year. And all of a sudden, the headlines went from Nickelodeon being being caught up in a pedophile scandal to Nickelodeon and the Super Bowl. So they basically helped squash and censor pedophilia. Then you go back to, these guys are athletes, and they're remarkable athletes. I think we all know in this country, like, you see it at a young age with middle school and high school, right? If you're a really good athlete, you're treated differently, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. Like, that's life. But it's a real thing. So they're not really in tune with reality ever, right? Because if you're a prodigy, you're going to be treated different than everybody from a very young age, right? So now all of a sudden you have these people so detached from reality, and then you got like Taylor Swift's husband, who's like, a role model, and now he's getting $40 million a year from Pfizer to tell kids to go get their shots. Right there, it just, for me, I can't get behind it. I know I dive a little deeper in my brain, I think, than most people do with stuff. Yeah, man. Once you. I've always kind of been like that, and then
I just watched the game.
Yeah, see, man, I wish
I just watched football.
Yeah, man, I wish I could do that.
I'm nowhere where you are, dude.
I wish I could do that, man. But whenever I watch something, and not just football, whenever I'm doing anything, I'm always like, well, what about this? And especially when there's tons of money involved, right?
Were you always that way, or is that something that you've noticed? If you were to look at yourself over time, like before you joined the military, and then you served, and then you got out, at what point in your life do you think you started to be more like you're talking about now, where you're trying to do something, but your brain is going like 100 miles an hour?
I've been like that. Wow. Probably since I was a kid. Okay. I've always been a quote-unquote overthinker, if you will. Just how my brain works, man. It always, it used to be way more chaotic. It still goes a million miles an hour, but it's a very peaceful million miles an hour now. Yeah. I think a lot of it was being an abused child. Yeah. That kind of changes your perception on things a little bit. Yeah. And then my mom always taught me, even though I talk a lot, my mom always taught me to listen as well. Yeah. And I ask a lot of questions. And once I got into the Army, it's a melting pot. Sure. So I started getting educated on things by different people, and you start reading stuff more, and you're like, oh, what's going on here? And then the big turning point when I started really, for me, deep diving into stuff, New Year's Eve 2009, 2010, I was actually down at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Was going to watch WVU play. Yeah. Florida State, I think it was.
You probably just got back from deployment.
Yep. Well, I was home just a few days. Yep. And I ended up just randomly, I got jumped by 3 black dudes, and it was, they were screaming out, cracker and this, that, and the other. It was completely random. Evidently, there was racial tensions in Jacksonville at the time. Completely random. Shit happens. It was wrong place, wrong time. Sure. Things happen.
How'd you do?
Oh man,
that's tough.
Both of these jaws were completely broken. All these teeth, all these teeth were down in my gums. Cheekbones were crushed. They stomped my head into the ground. They had brass knuckles. I mean, it was. You win some, you lose some. I was in the hospital for a week or so. They built my face back together, whatever. But then, I was shocked. I was a country boy from, Winchester, Virginia, and obviously, I knew racial stuff was a thing, but I never firsthand experienced it like that.
Joining the Army doesn't help because everybody's green.
Yeah, everybody.
You don't see that. We all get along. you see all the races and you're working with them, and then you go back out on the street and you think and it doesn't translate. So, you know, and then, you know, now you're probably even more on guard now. Let me just throw something else into my rucksack that I'm gonna carry around.
Well, and it was, I mean, I'm actually really grateful that it happened because it made me, you know, because obviously I couldn't really do much during that healing process. My jaw was wired shut for 4 months, 2 months, I don't know, a long time. My jaw was wired shut. So I couldn't do anything. You couldn't lift. I think for the first 4 months, wasn't supposed to lift over like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in my room, you know, not much to do. So I started researching, man.
Yeah.
I started looking into the racial divide in the country. You know, this is when a lot of that was really kicking off when Obama was in office. So I started really looking into that, you know, and then I, you know, came to the conclusion, because obviously for a little bit there, I had my guard up, man. I was like, whoa, what is going on? You know, scary stuff. And then I really started looking at it, and I think it's like more of an economic thing, right? Like, it's a rich and poor thing. You know, the very poor have a very different set of problems than, you know, your middle class and above do. So it's like, you know, you go to the inner cities, and it's more the African American community that is in the poor section of what it is, and then you go out into the sticks, you know, it's white people, and then you got marginalized groups. I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
And my analysis of that over the years is a lack of fathers. Lack of fathers, boys being raised by their moms, which links into the whole growth of LGBTQ times Y, and men not knowing how to be men. Men, when they get a chance to have a male figure in their lives, they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then, you know, whether it's a friend or not a friend, they get introduced to this person. Next thing you know, they're a soldier in somebody's thing. They're running some packages, and the next thing you know, they're, you know, getting beat in or whatever it is. It's absolutely absurd. But it starts with the lack of fathers. It starts, and that, you know, I mean, not to dive in like we do with the football thing, but that's a big political thing that goes back to the 60s and 70s, you know, where they created the program where, you know, if you lived in a certain neighborhood and you were a certain color, you could make more money every month if there was no man in the house.
Yeah,
You were available for more social programs and checks by not having a man in the house. So why have a man in the house if I can make more money and I don't have to put up with your crap, I don't have to clean up after you, I don't have to cook for you. So, you know, we made these kids together, but I don't need you anymore because the government's going to be paying me more. So the government's going to become dad or my husband, and you're going to go live on the street. And then what happens to that guy, which, like, very similar to me and a lot of veterans out there, bringing it back to veterans, you know, when you join the Army for God, country, and apple pie, you go off to do bad things to bad people, and then in the interim, you know, you had a mom, you had a dad, you had brothers and sisters that loved you, your friends from high school. You come back a totally different person, and people don't recognize that person, the angry person who doesn't smile and sees the bad in everything. And now, you know, maybe relatives and friends that you had before that don't recognize you anymore start to push away. That wife, you're angry. She sees you as a threat to the children because you're like, you know, you're not doing it fast enough. And if you don't do it fast enough, people are going to die, to your 7-year-old kid when you're 3 inches from that kid's face. And that 7-year-old kid doesn't know what's going on. And the wife that's looking at it, you know, like, hey, you need to leave. And now you're a dad and you're on the street and you're trying to figure out how to feed yourself when, you know, most of your retirement check is going to your spouse and your kids. And so relate that back to the conversation we're having. So if you're dad X from neighborhood X and you're race X and you go on the street, you were trying to be a dad, maybe you didn't have a dad, right? Or your dad was kind of effed up. Maybe your dad was on the street, who knows? Raised by your mom, and now you're trying to do better, you're trying to get a job, do the right thing, and it's not good enough. You're not good enough, so you get thrown away and you're on the street, whether it's the veteran or the, you know, that father. And what do you do? What do you do? You're on the street. Where do you go? How long do you sleep on your buddy's couch? How long do you, before some guys just, they don't have it in them, and the next thing you know, they're you know, you're self-medicating. It starts off with alcohol maybe, or marijuana, and then it moves on to the next thing, and it moves on to the next thing, and it's just not numbing you enough, and it doesn't last long enough, and then, you know, the homeless situation. Many of the homeless people, if you really dig down deep, just like I talked about veterans, you know, I was just on the phone with a guy telling that story. If you really sit down with a homeless person and look them in the face and get down, and you know, a lot of them are not bad people. You know, real homeless people, not the homeless people that are standing on the corner with the sign that actually have a house. They're making like 6 figures. You know, the real homeless people that won't beg. Real homeless people live under a bridge. They do what they can. You know. And again, back to society, to our vets, to whatever, but, you know, if you talk to a veteran that's living under a bridge, you talk to a homeless person, they have a story. And a lot of times, you know, when I look at veterans, I have 2 big rules of thumb when I talk about veterans. The number one thing that I have with veterans is, when I look at veterans, I don't see the 78-year-old Vietnam vet living on the street, you know, doing this, or all bearded out, dirty clothes, piss on his pants, you know, whatever.
Sounds like me when I was drinking.
the OIF vet or the OEF vet that doesn't have any teeth anymore because, you know, when he got injured, they put him on morphine. He was on morphine for the last 3 to 6 months that he was in the military. He gets out of the military, transitions out. Now he makes the mistake. Okay, makes the mistake of not going to the VA and trying to continue. He goes home, he links into his friend, hey man, I need something. Do you know anybody? You got a guy, and he makes his first street drug purchase. He takes his first street drugs to satiate that need, and now it turns into a full-blown, you know, self-medicating addiction, which a lot of times turns into heroin. They're not doing the personal hygiene that they're supposed to be doing. They're on the street, man. They're sleeping there, you know, whatever. They don't brush their teeth. A lot of those guys that I'm working with, none of them have any teeth. If they do have any teeth, they should have been removed a long time ago. That's how you can tell, and you can tell by different signs on their stuff where they're burning themselves. Cigarette burns on their hands because they're smoking a cigarette or something, and then they pass out, and they'll have little burn marks on their fingers. Where the cigarette, you know, they pass out and the cigarette burns down.
Yeah, and to build the smokable drugs, I used to be actually before I was in the Army, I've done pretty much every drug. Pretty much every drug that I can think of, man. I've done heroin, crack, coke, a whole laundry list. It's a lot of the makeshift stuff that you use to smoke gets really hot, and like when somebody's all cracked out, like they'll be like hitting. I've seen dudes like hit crack out of like they'll have a socket, like out of a socket set, and they'll make a little makeshift, you know, put your like Brillo pad in there and stuff, and they'll be. I've seen guys burn their days, and you're like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah. But how, you know, in the world of things, so we just told the story about how, you know, boom, God, country, apple pie, join the military, you know, come back. And you get thrown away. Your money's all going to somebody else. You're supposed to go to McDonald's and flip burgers to try to keep a roof over your head and feed yourself. I ain't doing that. I'd rather live on the street. My big thing I say like is I'd rather live under a bridge. I'll go live under a bridge. And I mean a lot of these guys, but how does that happen? So to finish that portion, when I look at a veteran, I don't see that guy with the needles out of his arm, or the fact that his teeth are out of his mouth because he didn't brush his teeth when he's in, you know, when he was on the street, you know, so all his teeth are gone and all this other stuff. I see this guy that finally wants some help. But I also see the 17, 18, 19-year-old kid that played football or wrestled or played basketball. He had a car, he had a small job. He used to smile, he used to laugh. He had friends, you know, and, you know, now he's just angry, and he doesn't know why he's angry. He doesn't know why he sees only the bad and everything. doesn't know why he has a plan to a backup plan to kill everything that moves or everything that's around him within so many, feet or meters. I have a major traumatic brain injury, so I have like emotional control issues. So sometimes that's part of my story. I used to be Superman. I used to be able to emotionally, mentally, physically, emotionally like attack anything. And now I'm just a wreck, dude. My head went off a windshield at 60 miles an hour.
Wow, how long ago?
That was 30 March 2007. I was out at Camp McCall, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was an instructor in the Q course. I was a small unit tactics instructor. So Ranger Rick, 6 years in 175. Small unit tactics, raid ambush recon was my bread and butter. And a Green Beret, the difference between Rangers and Green Berets are, we're all masters of the basics, but you guys are masters of the basics in execution. We're masters of the basics in linking up with an indigenous force, gaining credibility and legitimacy, trying not to get killed initially on insertion, and then teaching that to an indigenous force, and then getting them to do bad things to bad people in the name of God, country, and apple pie, and letting them take the credit as we melt back into the darkness, and we were never there. That's why you're not going to see movies about Green Berets in Afghanistan. They did the horse soldiers or whatever it was. There are some stuff that was huge, though, on the initial invasion in Afghanistan and stuff. But I guarantee there were Green Berets on the ground in Venezuela. I guarantee it. That we had guys, 7th Group or whoever, on the ground. Not to pull any punches, but when 375 jumped into Afghanistan, I know there were Green Berets on the drop zone. So all you guys out there with a mustard stain, good on you, man. I wanted one too. But I know Green Berets that were on that DZ. but I see that kid, man. I see that guy, and that's who. When I meet a 78-year-old Vietnam vet at the Aquavilla condo that I'm getting ready to be to in 2 days, and Joe, love you, man. I'm a vet. I'm much younger. I'm 55. I hang out with those. I have more in common with 70 and 70, 80-year-old people. They're old vets and stuff than I have with anybody, civilian-wise. I don't like civilians. I don't like their lack of loyalty. I don't like their anything. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. And
Is there exceptions to that? Or do you just know if you're a civilian, you're a no-go in this zone?
I live 2 miles from my best friend in high school. When he drives by my house and I'm standing in my front yard or at my mailbox getting my mail, he goes like this. He looks the other way.
What is that? Because
I don't know, man.
How is that? Do you give off that vibe?
No. It's I don't know. That's the thing with being a vet, and I guarantee a big portion of people that are watching this are probably sometimes asking themselves the same question. Yeah. I don't know what I did wrong. Because none of them like tap me on the shoulder and go, "Hey man, you're a fucking asshole."
Yeah, people.
You're just an asshole, and I don't want anything to do with you. But that's not what it is. Nobody came up to me and said, "Oh, you did this wrong. You did." I think it came down to, with him specifically. I was in a bar one night. I grew up in Central New York. We got this old bar called Trappers.
It's a cool name.
Trappers Lounge, man. And you don't go there unless it's the right color. I love that environment. I love a roughneck bar. I love it. I love a bar like that.
I do too.
And I walk in and I fit right in. But I was at the bar, and I was the year that I retired, 2009. I retired 31 October 2009.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was at the bar, and I'm at the bar, and of course this guy wants, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'm like, I'm the guy that's getting ready to kick your fucking ass. And he's like, "Oh, I'm like, dude, I was in this bar when you were like a stain on your dad's pants." And I reached in my wallet, and I pulled out my ID, and I went into a PSD rage. I went into I didn't even know I had issues. I had a major traumatic brain injury. I had major emotional control issues, but I hadn't addressed it yet. Nobody pulled me aside and said, like my spouse, did I have anger management issues? Did I have emotional control issues that I wasn't recognizing? Did I change? the number one people in your life as a veteran, spouse and veteran supporters, that's who I like to talk to, the veteran supporters who or veteran family members. Those are the people that recognize that the veteran has changed. Those are the people that can tap the veteran on the shoulder and say, hey, you know, you're really angry. You're not the guy you were before, you know, deployment XYZ and your head going off a vehicle at 60 miles an hour, skull fracture, C1, C4, wake up 3 days later on a morphine drip with your chain of command standing over you saying, you're done, your career is over, and I still have 3 years to go before I can retire and get my 20. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. You know? So all that comes out right there. And I don't know, you know, as a veteran, you don't know why you're so angry. You don't know why you have no flashpoint. You're from 0 to 100 miles an hour ready to kill everybody in that bar. You've had a plan before you even walked in the bar. But as you're moving into the bar, you're sitting down, you're measuring everybody up, and you've already got a plan, you know? So this guy just happened to volunteer, man. He raised his right hand, and I pulled out my ID card. And I really think that this is, I could be wrong, that what happened. Because back in the day, 9/11 happened, I was already in. 9/11 happened, I was Captain Ricky Mills, just finished selection. I'm in the commander's course at Fort Benning, North Carolina, doing my captain's career course, getting ready to go into the Q course, SEER school, you know, SUT, all this stuff, put on a green beret, go off to do bad things to bad people, you know, I'm like, and I'm just like, 99, why did these people not join? The people that, when we were kids and I was running around in the woods, you know, playing war and all that other stuff, and the guys that, when I joined, they said, no, I'm not gonna join, you know, but if America's attacked, you know, I'll be here. None of those guys. I know guys, and I've looked at them, guys that would have been a great Navy SEAL, would have been a great Ranger, would have been a great Green Beret, would have been a great asset to the United States. But when they, you know, hit the road, nothing. So when Rick Mills pulls his wallet out, pulls his ID card out, and throws it at the fucker, and says, do you know what the fuck I've done? Or where I've been? Where the fuck were you? And where were you? And all you motherfuckers in here. Because I wasn't here. I'm glad that all your tree stands are set up and you can shoot a big buck every year and you're Mr. Whitetail Hunter, or you have access to, you know, 1,000 acres of land because you never went off and did anything, and you still have the network. Or somebody says, hey, do you know Johnny so-and-so? And I'm like, you know, because you're like, where are you from? I'm from Elbridge, you know? And they're like, oh man, you know Johnny so-and-so? And I'm like, no, I don't know that guy. And they're like, well, bullshit. You're not from Elbridge, you're not from around here. Everybody knows so-and-so. You're lying. You're lying, you can't be from here because everybody knows him. Now you're questioning my integrity, and what's the worst thing you can do to a veteran? Question their integrity, right? So many reasons. I'm like, dude, again, you know, back to like, I was running and gunning around in this place, like chasing tail and everything around here. Being a wild man, almost dying as a kid. I needed to join the Army to get away. I always say, if I didn't join the Army, I would have gone to jail or been dead. You know?
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, a lot of the things you're saying, I lived that way, wow, for a long time, till April of 23, when I went to Ambia Life Sciences and did Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT for the first time. A lot of the things you're saying, I was right there. It's almost like a script, isn't it?
That's the commonalities. That's the beauty of putting it on video, because when I make videos, I'm a big Christian, so when I make videos or anything like that, I've come to the realization, when I had my for-profit business, I stress over numbers. The Lord is preparing you for what He has prepared for you. So when I had my for-profit, it was about getting numbers, getting that credibility and legitimacy, the quantification to approach a for-profit business to get them to sign a contract with me to pay me $6,500 and do all that stuff. Now that I have a 501c3 and I'm working with veterans, it's completely changed. It used to be about the 99, and the 1% that I missed, or the one person that I missed, is the chaff. And now that I'm running a 501c3 and I'm doing stuff for veterans, it's about the guy behind the camera that connected just now. Because he feels he's alone. I'm all alone, I'm isolated, I've shut in my house, I've maybe taken cardboard or tinfoil and put it over the windows. I can't look at myself in the mirror. I may have taken cardboard or tinfoil and covered the mirror because I can't look at myself. And they think they're alone. Nobody's going through what they're going through. Nobody understands them. That's the one. We're leaving the 99 to go after the one. There's so many Bible references in there. The Lord has showed us and demonstrated for us through his storytelling, through his stories, in so many ways. It's about the one. And that's why I like making these videos. It's one of the reasons why I contacted you and I wanted to come down here and just say, you're not alone, man. You're not alone. We've been there. It's so many commonalities. But when you're like, man, that was me. But if it takes, that's how, when I bring, so what Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures does is we find veterans and we bring veterans out of their quagmire, the swamp that they're living in, whatever it is. So whether they're living in a house with a wife that's barely tolerating them and they're almost out, and the kids, when they walk in the front door from whatever shit job they're working to try to satiate their wife and their kids, when they walk in the door, all the people that are in the kitchen making brunch and talking, they can hear them maybe, and when they walk in the door, they're like maybe half smile because they're going to be able to walk to the kitchen and enjoy some family time. But they walk in the door and everybody goes, whew, and all the kids go work their way to their rooms, and then the spouse maybe sees them for a few seconds and then she walks out. And now the guy that's out working a job trying to pay for all this stuff, because he never went to the VA, he never filed, he's got PTSD, maybe a traumatic brain injury, his issues, he just never made the cut. Nobody pulled him aside. Nobody's tapping him on the shoulder like I needed and saying, like, dude, like if my spouse, the one person in your life that like you sign your name on the dotted line, I'm gonna take care of you. I'm that guy. Like, I can honestly say with my current wife and my previous wife of 20 years before I got divorced, like I was ready to, like, if she was in a wheelchair or if she, was incontinent, she's laying in a bed, I would have changed her bedpan and I would have done that happily. She gave me 4 great kids. But like, so.
You need a minute, brother?
No, I'm good. When I wasn't good enough anymore, throw the garbage out. You need to find a place to live. In a foreign country. I was in Germany.
Wow.
And I didn't leave. I didn't get on a plane and fly back to the States like I should have. And I had 30% instead of 100% after dying on the side of the road. And I filed for all this stuff, but it all came back just like I worked with a lot of veterans. It all came back like denied and all this other stuff. I just didn't have the ability to make that change. Sorry for getting emotional again. I had that traumatic brain injury. But we find guys that are in that situation. And then, and it's very, how does Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures find veterans? And I'm going to be 100% honest, and people can call bullshit on it if they want. The Lord sends those veterans to us. Again, the 501c3 to the for-profit. When I was running a for-profit, it was all about Ricky Mills. When I was in the Ranger Battalion, it was all me doing Ironman triathlons and going to combat diver course, as a Staff Sergeant Rick Mills, Headquarters Platoon Sergeant, Stinger NCO, Fire Support NCO, going to college at night and running Ironmans at the same time. I'm like, boom, 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 it's you, it's you, it's you. It's all about you. It's all about the 99. Boom, it's all you. You don't realize that something in the background's like maneuvering the pieces until later. But in the for-profit side, man, it was all about me and chasing it and all that stuff. And then you roll over to the not-for-profit side, and on the for-profit side, it was about chasing partner companies and signing contracts and gaining that quantification. I need bigger numbers for quantifications, because the greater the quantification, the more money I can ask for. Because I didn't have a dime to my name. How did Wild Jaeger become? Wild Jaeger was because I got kicked out of the house. I needed a place to stay. you can only couch surf for so long before guys who have kids and spouses are like, dude, I'm sorry, but you gotta go. So I moved into this building with wires hanging off the ceiling, construction stuff all over the place, empty. It was like a bank. 20 years before that, the bank across the street temporarily moved into that building for a short period of time while they renovated their bank, and then they immediately moved right back over. So it was just empty, dusty, dirty. The beauty of it was I had something to pour myself into, all that energy, and try to get myself out of my mind, which was even today, my mind is just a cesspool. People have no clue like what goes through our minds. You don't want to be in my mind, I'd be in jail if people were in my mind, premeditated. But while Jaeger Veteran Adventures, we seek out those guys, but on the for-profit, it was me finding the guys. And what I learned through that, when you get a relationship with Jesus and you give yourself to Jesus, what happens is, it's like, Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah.
On the not-for-profit side, it became, so as a team leader, I'm a broad external. When you go to be a Green Beret, they assess you. So you're an officer, they break you down to your infinite, pieces. They do, multiple psych evals. I did CAG selection, so I have the psych evals over on the CAG selection side, too. And they're like, dude, here's you on a piece of paper, break you down. I'm a broad external, I gather a lot of stuff, which information. When I'm running and gunning, flowing through rooms or in a firefight or something, I'm gathering, I'm over here doing this, and I'm watching this guy do this, and I'm watching this guy do this, and then I'm maneuvering a little to the left or the right with what's going on. Some guys go narrow internal, I'm a broad external, and they're fighting through a stovepipe, because that's what they do. And so what that leads me to do is make decisions really fast. So I learned that, they told me, you're gathering so much information and it's going to your brain so fast and you're processing it so fast that you're going to make rash decisions really fast. And what could happen to you is you can make decisions in a combat situation too fast without gathering all the information, and you could get your guys killed. And so that's what they do with Special Forces team leaders at that level. But you get to go, that's all before you even get to, your ODA. So when you get to your ODA, you identify your high threat situation and stuff. And for me, it was pull my team sergeant aside and say, hey, Ken, here's me, this is my thing. So what I need you to do, and I've always sought out, I was NCOX, I always sought out an NCO supervisor that'll say, hey man, you need to slow down. Hey Rick, let's slow down a little bit. Let's rethink stuff, because I'm like, go. But on the 501c3 side, I had to learn what happened was everything that I tried. What happened on the for-profit side to transition from the for-profit to the not-for-profit was the way the Lord speaks to me is in successes and failures. So everything that I've ever done in my life has been successful. What Ricky touches becomes successful because of the energy and everything that I put into it. And then all of a sudden, the stuff that I was trying to do on the for-profit side started becoming unsuccessful or not as successful as I wanted it to be. I'm going for the 99 and getting rid of the one. The partner companies, COVID was a big one. So COVID hits, we're getting ready to sign. It would have been pinnacle year, $70,000 worth of contracts. I'm going to the shows. I'm signing with Remington Arms Company, Barnes Bullets, Summit Tree Stands, Moultrie Game Cameras, big names. I'll get to that in a second. But it just started becoming failures and failures and failures. And then everything that I did with the veteran hunts, I'm in this store, and these 2CR just got back from Afghanistan. They had a WTU, Warrior Transition Unit, and what happened, I learned in that how, I don't know how it was in the range of 10 or SF, how they treated their casualties when they got back to the rear. But in warrior society, and it does fold over to our side. In warrior society, you have to be infallible. You have to be indestructible. you have to be Superman in order to jump off that helicopter and fast rope down that rope and sprint to that door and kick it in and run through rooms. Because if you thought you weren't Superman and you were vulnerable, then it puts a chink in your armor, and you can't have a chink in your armor. When you're in a ranger squad, fire team, platoon, there can be no chinks when you're on that ODA or whatever you're doing. And so when a guy gets injured downrange and 2CR returned to Vilseck, Germany, Rose Barracks right there outside Grafenbier,
That's right. I was there.
they separated those guys, and so they're not even out of the military. They're not even veterans, and they've already lost their sense of purpose and community. So everything that they were fighting for, the guy to their left and their right, they get shot or injured in some way, blown up, and they're ostracized. They're thrown out with the trash. They're on the same post. Same thing that the wife did, same thing that that person did in that community X, race X in that city. Now she's raising all the kids and he's on the street, homeless, self-medicating. And now you have these guys in a warrior transition unit, and they're just, so as guys come in, it's like, yeah, they have each other, but all like the whole people are over, working on vehicles, and they have the unit and they're going to the bar by themselves. Maybe once in a while they might get pulled over once in a while, but when you get injured, you represent a chink in their armor. So you slowly but surely you get ostracized to the point where you're only hanging out with injured people. You're on the same post, but you have a barracks. So what Wild Jaeger the store became was a place for those guys to go. So in a country, Germany, that was not legal. You tell me the Lord didn't give me this. You can't make this stuff up. So retired Special Forces, Rick Mills, thinking outside the box. I need a place to live. I move into this abandoned building, and we create this building, this business, Wild Jaeger, and we're nothing. And but as we started to have products and clean it up and sweep it out, we got some old bar material and put it around the inside, and we hung up, I had a whitetail mount, and it turned into a bow hunting store in a country where bow hunting is illegal.
Oh, wow.
So in Germany, in many countries in Europe, bow hunting is illegal. So we were offering Jaeger, or hunters, the name Wild Jaeger or Wild Jaeger. German's my language. I speak, read, and write German as a Green Beret. You have to have a language. German was my language. I speak 5 different languages.
Oh, wow.
But German was my main language. So I had to go through the whole rigmarole of figuring out the bureaucracy of starting a business in Germany and all this other stuff. And I'm living in an office in the back space. One of the offices. You walk in the store, big open space, cash register, hallway, office, break room, turn the break room into my kitchen, put a shower into a bathroom that didn't have a shower in it, had the little fold-out mattress that's like 3 inches deep that, when you unfold it, throw it in a corner, and that's my bed. And I had my kids every 2 weeks. So for at least the first year, when my kids, who used to be Major Rick Mills, high on the hog, making a lot of money, uniform, beret. Now my kids are coming seeing me every 2 weeks. They've got to go to the store. Dad's picking them up at the train station or driving and picking them up, and I'm bringing them back. And I've got 4 more fold-out mattresses for my kids, and they're sleeping in the other empty offices with wires hanging from the ceiling.
Wow.
And they've got to go into the old bathroom and take showers in the shower that we just put in, and their dad's cooking them breakfast, but I'm not on the street, I'm not under a bridge. I was very lucky, but I was given that task and purpose. But back to 2CR, what it turned into is the 2CR soldiers from the WTU, they started hearing, hey, there's this guy down there, and you can go talk to him, and he'll listen to you. So I'm in my store, and I had an employee, Alois Hofer, great old guy, bow tech and everything, because I'm a nug, man, I'm a knuckle dragger, I'm a soldier, I don't know how to work on bows and everything, so I found this old German guy that would come in, and he would sleep on the floor. It started off with him coming in every Wednesday, and he brought his dog, and he would sleep on the floor, and I mean, it's a pretty wild life. You know, I say homeless. I wasn't homeless, but I am homeless. I mean, define homeless?
Yeah.
You know, we judge ourselves way harder than anybody else. So every time I say homeless, I'm always like, man, somebody's gonna jump me on that and go like, really? You were a major. You were a field grade officer in the United States Army, a Green Beret. You were really homeless? Define homeless. You define homeless. When you get kicked out, you're sleeping on this buddy's couch and you're eating his stuff, and now you move from his house to another guy's house, and then you finally run out of fucking friends, and now you move into a building with the stuff hanging over, and you gotta go pick up your kids, and your kids have to sleep on the floor in that place.
That's very homeless.
You define homeless. What's your definition of homeless? That was pretty fucking homeless to my 5-year-old that was sleeping on the floor. You know? So these 2 CR guys would walk in the store, and I could tell. Every time I could tell. Because when you own a small business, well, entrepreneurship, you should be able to do every job in that business. You should be able to, you know, there's nothing. The accounting, I did all the accounting for the first 1.5, 2 years. I mopped the floors, I cleaned the windows, everything. There was no job in that store that I couldn't do. And I learned how to tune bows for my bow tech. I learned how to do that stuff. Because you got to. So when I was alone in the store, which was a long time, 2 weeks is a long time. And when you start a business, how many customers do you think are walking into that store?
Not very many.
The first year. And so out of the little bit of money that's left over for me, the rest of it's going into paying the rent in the store, the electricity, the Wi-Fi and everything. The 3 to 5 year business model, I'm in year 1, I'm putting money into my business. More videos. If you want to watch videos on this stuff, go to the Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures YouTube channel, and I'm making / little videos on all these little things. Every single thing that we're talking about right now, if there's not a video now, there will be a video about it in the future. But, so, there was a year, for an entire year of my life, I lived off $300 a month.
Wow.
I had $10 a day to figure out how to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I picked up every bottle on the street I could find. And I brought the bottles back, I put them in another thing. Even the 2 CR soldiers didn't, maybe they did. Maybe they knew. But when the 2 CR soldiers, so this guy would come in and he's kind of fingering around, he's in uniform, messing around, looking at stuff I can see, he doesn't want to buy anything. Walk over, hey, how you doing? My name's Rick Mills, boom, I'm the owner, blah, blah, blah. And it starts going and it leads in, and then now it turns into, and now the guy's starting to tell me his story. You know, yeah, I was in the military, I was in the army, and that was the beginning of starting to learn to gain credibility and legitimacy with the veteran first. So veteran X, or service member, 2 CR soldier, coming out of the WTU, he's injured, he's been ostracized, he's living in this thing. He hears this guy is downtown, he'll listen to you, give you some advice. He comes in, he doesn't know me from Adam. And everybody's a ranger, man. Every Marine was a sniper.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody, you go to the bar, everybody was a ranger, right? So who's this guy that's living in this dump building down in Germany? Why the hell would he be living in the building? So it was the process to where the Lord is preparing you for what He has to do. So the Lord was taking me through these baby steps with these guys. And it was like, yeah, I was in the Army for 20 years. And I never mentioned, I tried to stay away from Ranger SF. I just wanted to be like, I was in the Army. You know, and that's back to my other thing. I talked about veterans, you know, how I see them, the kid, before they join the Army. But I like to say, one of the sayings that I have is, I love all veterans. I love all veterans. I'm not the Green Beret Foundation. I'm not the Ranger for Life program or the Through Rangers Foundation. I'm Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures, and so is my partner, John McCollum, 25-year Navy, CV. I'll help any veteran. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Coast Guard, Space Force.
That's exactly the way it should be. And then, Rick, I gotta use the bathroom real quick.
All right.
I'm sorry, man. I slammed 2 bottles of water right before you got here. I'm just gonna...
And we going?
You wanna start rolling again?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So
we were at...
we're the range. So the 2 CR soldiers
Yep.
come in, and so I'm like, hey, and I was in the Army, You know, I'm an Iraq vet. Got hit by a car, been dead, got kicked out of my wife's house. You know, bad relationship with my kids, and then that would allow them. And then so, I'm a small business owner. I'm living off $300 a month, $10 a day. But I had the presence of mind at the time that soldier needed me more than I needed anything else. So I would walk over, lock the door. I'd be like, "Hey man, you want to have lunch? I'm getting ready to have lunch. I'll make you lunch." You know? So I'm bringing this guy into my, but I'd walk out, he'd, "Yeah man, sure." I'm paying attention to him. I'm giving him some time. And every time I work with, I used to be that broad external ranger, Green Beret, where you're going and I'm not giving everybody 100%, you know, somebody comes up, "Hey sir," or "Hey sergeant," you know, boom, I got this, and I'm thinking about 10 different things, and I'm not really giving that person 100% of my time, because I'm shooting them and communicating. The amount of things that I could get done in a day was absolutely absurd when I was in the military. And now, I don't know how I get anything done. I'm not that guy anymore. But I'd go over, I'd close the door, I'd go in, I'd start making lunch and sit him down, and I would close the store for the rest of the day and just have like 3 to 4 hours of just him and I. I'd sit there and I gained credibility and legitimacy to the point with a little bit with my story, and then he starts to talk and he starts to tell me what's going on in his life. And I shut up and I go into receive mode. And, you know, sometimes, you know, sometimes it's a cry fest.
Oh, without
You
a
know,
doubt.
right there in my break room. And the thing is, he's on a post with 2CR, he's in the WTU, they've got all these, or you got the Red Cross that's doing this, taking him out to do this and that and the other thing, and they're not doing what I'm doing. They're not sitting down and giving him 100% of myself. If I can do nothing else, I can be there and give him 100%. And then so from there that turned in, we had an indoor archery range. I was like, "Hey man, you want to learn how to shoot a bow?" "Yeah man." And we'd eat and then we'd be back and we're like, "Here's a compound bow, here's how you shoot a bow. Hey, we shoot every Friday night, we shoot." And it went from like 1 or 2 guys to like tournaments.
Oh wow.
And then now every Friday night we've got 3, 5, 6, 7, whoever wanted to show up. And like shooting a bow at 4:30 in the evening turned into, "Hey, let's have a barbecue, let's go get a rack of beer," or to a fire outside, to the same thing, sitting around the fire listening to this dude's story and this dude's story, you know. And we just became, you know, here I am, I'm broken Rick Mills, and it's huge that, and you have to agree, when we, John McCollum will say the same thing, I, broken veteran ex-Ricky Mills, I get just as much, if not more, out of running these veteran events than the veteran does. My sense of purpose and my community are these veterans that I share more in common with than anybody that I don't trust, that's not going to show up on time, that tells me they're going to be there and they're not there. The, "Hey, yeah, let's do this." Every time some civilian says, "Hey, yeah, man, we goose hunt," and "Yeah, I'll invite you over to goose hunt," and I just go, throw that out, because that message is never coming, that phone call's never coming. Because they got their little community, because they never joined the military. They're the 99%. Back to that story about my best friend who lives 2 miles down the road. And he watched me berate that dude. "Where the fuck were you when 9/11 happened? How old are you?" "Well, you were old enough? You're old enough now. Why didn't you join the military?" "I did my 20. And I think my friend watched that and realized that he was just like that guy. And then now, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'd rather have the friend that would be loyal enough. I get it, you're civilian X, you're a veteran supporter. Okay, you're not necessarily family veteran, because a lot of families, it's the 1% of the United States of America, right? Even if you take the veterans, the veteran supporters, and the veteran family members, it's still only 1% of the United States. So the other 99%, they don't understand. And so out of the 33% of the 1% that's actually doing something for veterans, the veteran supporters, even some of the veteran supporters don't understand, but they're there. You know, that's the guy that, oh, I always wanted to be a service member, I always wanted to join, but I had some medical thing and I couldn't. So my way of giving back to the veteran community is being there for you. That's a hell of a lot better than being friend X who throws you away because 9/11 happened, and before 9/11, they were like, yeah, I'm not gonna join now with you straight out of high school, but if America's attacked, man, I'll be there. Really? Wow, where were you? Because I was there, man. You weren't there.
Yeah, man, that's I used to carry a lot of bitterness and resentment in general. I would say after I was out of the military, it was definitely directed at the civilian population. One thing that I learned, and a lot of this came through the use of things like Ibogaine. Ibogaine was a big eye opener, but they always tell you, like, when you go and sit with something like Ibogaine or a very powerful psychedelic medicine, you can't have expectations, right?
Sure.
Well, if you transfer that over to life, I started realizing a lot of the things that bothered me, a lot of the things that upset me, people's actions that upset me, which they were completely responsible for their actions. But when I really started looking, so when I look at a problem now, I'm like, this is a problem, this bothers me. First thing I do is look within. And I've noticed when I have expectations, most of the time, especially guys coming from our world, these expectations are rarely met, right?
Yeah.
So you're always disappointed, right? I know I was. You expect people to be like, hey, well, why didn't you stand up and serve your country when it was attacked? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? All valid questions, I think. They're very much so. In the past, I asked the same things time and time again. But in the past 2.5 years, when I've realized, when I let go of those expectations and have zero expectations of people, you mentioned unfulfilled promises in the nonprofit world. I mean, my goodness gracious, if 1% of the people did what they said they were going to do, I mean, Not Lucky would have a yacht right now.
Yeah.
We'd have 200 acres somewhere.
Yeah.
We'd have a veteran community, and then that all goes back to the expectation, right? Because it used to frustrate me to no end, and I still get frustrated. I'm not going to say I don't get frustrated anymore, because that'd be a lie. But it goes back, for me personally, it goes back to the expectation thing. So when somebody says something, and somebody says something, you should be able to expect them to do it. It's not the world we live in, I went to a Sportsman boat, the boat manufacturer, Sportsman, sales meeting, about 4 or 5 years ago. At that time, the human attention span was, I think, 1.5 seconds greater than a goldfish. Well, now you fast forward 5 years, we're actually below a goldfish.
Yeah.
So you start, once again, the overthinking thing, right? Read everything. You start thinking like that, and then you start really looking at, like, well, what makes me mad? What upsets me? What gets my blood pressure up? What distracts me? For me, a lot of it all went back to my expectations. So when I let go of those expectations, for me personally, like, it brings me a lot of peace. So if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, we're going to do this for your organization, I used to get super excited, super pumped up, and then I would have the crash when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just like, cool. I smile, and I'm like, that's great, man. Thank you. I appreciate the support, and I do. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to fruition, like, it's a great thing, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah. So when you let go of the expectations, you kind of, It's almost letting letting go of expectations kind of gives you control
Yeah.
to a point, right?
Yep.
So if I have no expectations of anyone,
Yep.
you know, if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I'm gonna donate $5,000 in 3 months,"
Yeah.
like, okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, and if they do, great. And if not, then oh well.
Yeah.
But when you used to hold people, or when I used to hold people to their word on that,
Yeah.
I mean, it would drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah, I call that the highs and lows. The highs and lows. When you first, and this is another veteranism. I do a lot of videos on veteranisms and stuff. But to link all that together, so with Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures, what we try to do is we try to maintain contact with the veterans, and we try to have a permanent impact on the veterans. So what I noticed in the 501c3 world and in the for-profit business that's trying to latch on to the 501c3 world because they need something to attach their brand and logo to say, hey, we're doing something for veterans also, and that maybe we'll sell more trucks, radios, whatever. And so anytime a for-profit company contacts me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know why you're contacting me. You're trying to get your write-off and, you know, all that other stuff. That's cool. I don't verbalize that, you know, but on the 501c3 side, there's a lot of the history of the 501c3, the veteran 501c3. There's the two big questions that are out there that you get from society are like, well, how many 501c3s are enough? You know, why are there so many 501c3s? We had this conversation last night. There are so many 501c3s out there because there are so many veteran communities throughout the 50 states of the United States and even overseas where veterans are, maybe Guatemala. I know there's a big veteran population down there. Because each veteran has his own microcosm of veteran community that he's linked into and gets to see how the veterans in their microcosm are getting, you know, effed, getting screwed over. That didn't get the help, that fell through the cracks, that are living under a bridge, that didn't go to a VA hospital, that have substance abuses, that were kicked out of the house, who are almost committing suicide, 22 a day, for this reason or that reason. But you know, if you fell through the cracks and you were me, you know, I get veterans that contact me and they're like, dude, really, I'm getting ready to do a fishing event with a. He was on my ODA, and I think the first time I contacted him and talked to him, and I wonder sometimes what's going on in other people's minds when somebody says this to you. Thank you for not hurting yourself back then. When somebody says that to you, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, what's he thinking? When a guy commits, you know, suicide level 2, trained in the Army, and then all this other stuff, of course, every suicide is linked to another 3 to who knows how many suicides. Because when a guy can execute that, then he empowers another 3 or 4 people. Well, he did it, so I can do it too. I haven't been able to do it yet, but he did it, and he must be there. I'll go join him wherever he is. But we're trying, in Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures, we're trying to permanently touch. So in the world of veterans and veteran services, we bring the guys in, they come, we do the sit around the fire, gain credibility and legitimacy by telling a little bit of my story. Some of the guys know a little bit, but where did the veteran come from? You know, the Lord in some way, shape, or form said, this is your next guy. I reach out, I contact the guy, we pay everything. So all the donations and all the money, nobody in Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures takes a penny out of it. If we took a penny out of it, it would decrease our sense of what, in an odd way, shape, or form, like what we're, if you're getting paid to do it, then you're not really the sense of purpose and community, right? So we don't ever want to take a penny out of the system. It would hurt what I'm getting out of it, what John's getting out of it, what the other veterans that are getting ready to become mentors across the United States are going to get out of it. So we just love pouring ourselves into these veterans and watching the change in the veterans in their lives, going from, like I had this story earlier, living in a truck. I had a Ranger veteran Central New York. You know, I'm friends with a former parole officer, Jeff Green, love you, man. And Jeff Green was like the ranger contract for all the police in the state of New York, state troopers, all your city cops and everything. It's like everybody knew who Jeff Green was. So there's more rangers out there than people who know what an airborne ranger is. You know, they know the America's stormtroopers is what I call them. You know? And so, like when the state police find a ranger, veteran, or person in a truck bombed on bourbon, because that was his drink, and Ranger X, who was Universal Soldier on deployment XYZ in Afghanistan, and is now a machine and doesn't know how to function any other way than the machine. You know, you're running reverse ops, you're on sleeping pills, you're trying to sleep during the day, you're running 3, 4, 5 ops at night, you're jacked up, you're lifting, you know, all that stuff, the supplements, you got a personal trainer when you're in the rear, and it's all that mission. How do you, when that ranger gets out, how do you not see that he's a high risk, that like almost 100% of the rangers that are getting out in some way, shape, or form are gonna have some kind of issue. So this ranger, as an example, you have the Universal Soldier, the story that I just said, he could not sleep. He had the inability to sleep. He probably didn't have access to sleeping pills. He was a good dude, jacked, a ranger. He was still like that guy. When he stepped out of his vehicle and I saw him the first time, I was like, fuck yeah, that's a ranger, you know? And, but at that time, when the police found him, they were like, okay, let me call Jeff. They called Jeff. They said, hey, we've got this guy. He's in a Walmart parking lot. He's bombed out of his mind. Either you come get him, or we're gonna take him. We're gonna arrest him. Jeff's like, where you at? I'll be there 45 minutes. So they just stay there with drunk ranger. And then Jeff calls me. I'm home for turkey season, because in the world of Wild Jaeger, trying to think, I'm doing the European game, but I'm coming home for whitetail season in the fall, and I'm coming home for turkey season. So I just happen to be in my cabin for 3 weeks with my son, and Jeff goes, it's like whatever, whatever time in the morning, dark 30. And he's like, hey, there's a ranger. This is the situation. Can you house him? You know? And again, Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures, how many 501c3s bring the veterans into their house, put them in their guest bedroom, have a designated bathroom for them, get up 2 hours prior to that veteran, make sure coffee's on, breakfast is done, and everything. So when the veteran gets up, treat him, boom, everything. And I don't go to sleep until that veteran goes to sleep, after a hard day. But we brought him in, and that ranger got to spend 4 or 5 days in my cabin. I got to sit down, and we got to talk, but he couldn't sleep. So at the end of 5 days, he had a truck and he had his dog. And he just drove around from city to city where he could park his truck. And when he finally got to the point where he was so tired but he couldn't sleep, he couldn't take it anymore, he would go to a liquor store, buy a bottle of bourbon, and just drink the whole darn thing and pass out and then wake up and then run his 5-day cycle again. And so very happily now he's married, he's got a kid, he's got a job, he's on his 2 feet, he's doing great things, But could that have gone the other direction? Hell yeah, it could have.
Now, how did you help him get from doing a 5-day cycle, drinking a bottle of bourbon, to wife, kid? I mean, because that's a big change. You just went from one extreme to another. How did we get there?
So in 5 days, which is a typical 5-day visit, you'd be surprised how much you can put on a person who wants it. So suicide. The people that are killing themselves, they don't want to kill themselves. It's not like they're out there like, I'm gonna do this, I can do this, but they don't wanna kill themselves. They're just, and this is hard. This is real hard for a lot of people. Like, they just wanted somebody to like go, hey man, I got you. Come on, come in. Wherever they're at, they're in their truck for 5 days. They're on the street, they're this, they've been ostracized, they got nothing left, they got no place to go. Their kids, their wife just says, I'm leaving and I'm taking the kids and you're never talking to your kids ever again. And their kids were their whole existence. Do you know how many veterans I know that literally have said, and if my wife had won that battle, I wouldn't be on this planet today. But thankfully the courts saw his record and that he wasn't a bad person. Does he have PTSD? Does he isolate? Is he on his own place? Does he not mix with society? And yes, he does, but that doesn't make him a bad man or a bad father or all that other stuff. So, you know, but how many veterans are like, but to be able to be a 55-year-old man who might, you know, that Father's Day 2018 was my day, where my kids in a fire team outside of the building that I lived in for 6 years. They got in a little fire team. I hadn't seen all 4 of my kids in the same place in 2.5 years. Because my daughter left, she just walked out and then all this other stuff. Not gonna dive into that, but in the world of kids and spouses and all that stuff. My kids in a fire team formation, they let my daughter speak because my kids know that I'm not gonna hit my daughter, you know, I might spank my boys with my hand or something, not like my dad did with the belt, you know, when we were kids, you know. And so there's my daughter. Who here ever wants to talk to this man again? And I'm standing on the stairs of the building that I just lived in for 6 years. My whole existence, the reason I have a small business, I think, at the time, you know, all the clarification of that goes back to like civilians now and how like, you know, they didn't join and all this. I have a totally different view of civilians now because of my Christianity and all that stuff. But like, I know what that's like. So during the 5-day cycle, to answer your question, gaining the credibility and legitimacy, and then going, look, I'm 55. If I had committed suicide, or I had allowed my anger management issues, you know, maybe you have PTSD, I can see you're angry, I can see it. The guys are, PTSD I can pick out, like, it's very evident to me. It might be hard for other people, but I got it like that. And the guys are like, go, 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 high strung, everything is a flashpoint, everything's an argument, rah, rah, rah. And within the first couple hours they're there, so I have this thing. My mom has, love you mom. She has 2 knights, full suited armor in the corner of her house. No, who knows why. When I get back to New York, I'm gonna shoot these videos. Because even back then, when I was in the store and I was trying to portray my story, but when I'm sitting around the fire and the guy's sitting there and my wife's making s'mores, we're drinking a beer, and he's in my house. I didn't bring him in and then put him in a hotel. Hey, I'm gonna bring you in, but I'm not bringing you all the way in. Because we might have an American sniper situation here, you know, Chris Kyle, right? No, when I bring you in, I'm all in. If I'm supposed to die, just like when I was in Iraq, if I'm supposed to die today, so be it. But Lord, let me be a warrior. Let me go out and run the streets of Ramadi. Let me be a lion today. Okay, I'm the same way. If Veteran X comes into my house and it turns into a Chris Kyle situation, I'm you know, Navy SEALs and whatever. That's a whole nother conversation for another day on Navy SEALs. Then I guess that's supposed to happen, but it never gets there because it comes down. And then I tell this story about the armor, how heavy it is, what it used to be like for me. Walking around with all that armor on because you don't want to hurt anybody else. You can bring lethal force at any point in time. Don't confuse my being a nice guy with my
not being lethal. But you're walking around, and the armor that we put on, because we get hurt, because we're separated and put in a WTU, because the guys in our unit maybe started coming over for a little while to check on us. Hey man, you okay? Maybe just to see like, okay, he got shot or he got blown up, but he's still alive. So if it happens to me, hey, maybe I'll be like him, you know? I'll just get shot or I'll get blown up, but I'm not gonna die. And that'll help me in my next deployment, in my next firefight. I'm not gonna die. Maybe. Like the other guy, this guy that did die. And I talk about the armor, but I'm like, back in the day when it was hard, I walked around, it was heavy. That armor's heavy. And when you have the armor on, you can't heal. Because the wounds, the mental, the emotional, and the physical, TBI, sorry. That's just me, it's me, I'm not, you know?
Yeah.
I've come to terms with that, I have no pride. I'm humble, I'm a vessel, the Lord is, you know, I prayed before I came in here, I said, Lord, you know, tell me what to say. But I have no pride. Former Green Beret, 6 years in Remington, 8 years as a Green Beret. I have no pride. It's about the one. It's about the one person that's going to watch this video and help you. And so when you start talking about that and they start thinking about themselves in their own brains, they're seeing their situation. And then so I start talking. In order to heal, I had to go to a clinic. I had to go to Valor Clinic Foundation, and I had to do a life assessment of my life all the way up to the day I joined the military. And then I had to brief that to like 10 or 12 people. And then I had to do focusing on turmoil and fractures and the bad things that happened in my life all the way to the day that I joined. Then I had to do another life assessment, and I had to go through my family history, but my military history from the day I joined until the day I retired, and focusing on fractures and the things, the bad things that happen. And then you have to stand up in front of these people. While you're doing that assessment, you're going through like, you know, like just some short stories. You know, my dad used to, you know, I don't know, who the hell taught my dad? My dad didn't have a dad. Back to the cycle. The cycle. The big circle that we're all in, man. A lot, you know, not every veteran, but a lot of veterans. You know, I just had it out with my dad a couple days ago. Everything happens for a reason. I needed to go through that maybe to sit on this podcast, but I just yelled at my dad for the first time. None of my brothers, my older brother, me, or my brother ever, I'm 55, and I've never said a harsh word to my father. I've always respected my father and sat in front of my father and never said, Dad, why did you do that? But my dad's thing when we were kids, he would take his belt off, and then I was 5. And what I want to do is I want to get on AI, and I want to go, AI, create an image for me of a 30-year-old Vietnam veteran taking his belt off and telling his 5-year-old son to pull his pants down to his ankle and let him go to work.
That's heavy, man.
Let him go to work. And so as a kid, I would go to the woods. The woods, the outdoors was my sanctuary. My stepmother, and so when I just like cornered my father the other day, why it hurt so bad, because I was like, I was leaving, I had to get out. I was having a meltdown. I haven't had a meltdown in so long since I went to the clinic, and I couldn't understand why it was so strong on me, because my dad, I was sitting at the dinner table, it was January 3rd, and I didn't understand, Lord, what is going on? And my dad was like, we were talking about how my dad finally got 100%, and I mentioned PTSD, and my dad was like, I don't have PTSD. I've never had PTSD. Not the way you see PTSD. I'm like, so I started having a meltdown because my father's my hero, and I joined the Army because of my father. And my entire childhood, I did the 10-foot circle around my father. I didn't wake my father up. I didn't, hey Dad, let's go. We never threw the ball. My dad, my entire childhood, he sat in a window facing the backyard, ashtray, 3 packs of cigarettes, ashtray, piled over, cigarette in this hand, fingers like this. This is my childhood.
Wow.
All day. All day.
That's intense.
That's it. Okay? So up to 55, it's weird, you know. My brother's yelling at me. We're like, oh, my brother, you're a fucking child. I'm like, yeah, I'm still a child. We all still have some. We're all dealing with some stuff that we haven't, you know. But so I go to get my jacket. I got to get out of there. You know, I'm gonna hurt somebody or I'm gonna hurt myself, and that's my family. So that's not gonna happen. So what am I gonna do? What do veterans do, right? I don't want to hurt anybody, right? I'm tired of being hurt, and I don't want to hurt anybody else. So I'm gonna put this armor on so nobody can hurt me, and then I'm gonna remove myself from society, and I'll go live over here, where I'm not hurting anybody, and nobody can hurt me. I'll go live under a bridge. I'm the problem? No, I'm not the problem. I'm a problem solver. I'm a fucking airborne ranger. I'm a Green Beret. I'm a problem solver. You're my wife. You're the problem. The kids. You're the problem. Mom and dad. You're the problem. Your friends. You're the problem. I'm the problem. I'm not the problem. I'll remove myself. 22 a day. You know? So I left and I walked out, but like on the way out, I come out of the room and I was like, I just wanted to say, and I didn't think about that till I was in the car. I just wanted to say to my dad, who taught you to take your belt off and tell your 5-year-old son to pull his fucking pants down and beat the fucking shit out of your kid? Pick your son up in a trailer, because we lived in a trailer park trash. I'm trailer park trash. And throw your son down the fucking hallway. How many feet? I don't know. I haven't been in a trailer in a long time. Hit the door, boom, slide down the door. I think I was out for a little while. I wake up, my dad's putting Vaseline or something on the bleeding parts of my legs and my ass. This hurts me more than it hurts you. I remember that shit. My dad stood there and he looked at me and he said, is that you speaking or is that your mother? Is that you speaking or is that your mother? That's my stepmother, the woman he brought into my life. When he drove to Florida from Texas, drove to Florida on his way to New York, kicked my mom, my real mother, that I met on the Maury Povich show.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Years later. That video is on the Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures YouTube when I met my mom when I was a ranger, E5 Sergeant Rick Mills, and I met my mom on the Maury Povich show in New York City. I had to get permission. We were on RRF1. Yeah.
They gave it to you.
I had to get permission from the chain of command to go meet my real mother.
Wow.
But and he kicks her out and gives her money for a bus ticket, and then he drives to New York and he meets who I call mom now. My mom, she is, I love you, mom. It's tough. You're having these conversations. You want to make videos. You want to connect with me. You don't want to hurt people's feelings either. This is my mom. She's my stepmom. But when I was a kid, the harsh reality of it, I had a brother who was 3 years older than me, and my dad scooped her up, and they're living together in a trailer. And my brother's favorite thing to do was beat the shit out of me. I was his toy. Hold my head under the water in the little kiddie pool that we had in the yard. So here I am again, run to the woods. Go to the woods, build forts, climb trees, start playing army, all that stuff. I spent my entire childhood in nature, building little fires, like stealing a potato and an onion in a pot. Like, how a pine tree would fall, and in the winter everything's covered with snow, but there wouldn't be any snow there, and it might have pulled the roots up. It created like this little hobble that I could crawl into, and I'd start a fire, and that's what I did. It's crazy, and then that turned into John McCollum in our meeting, and the whole Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures thing. But nature of the outdoors, it has a calming effect. When I just took, I think I can use Angel Cortez's name. Angel, I love you. Angel's a 175 guy, Angel? So Angel Cortez is a 175 guy, Orange County, California, former gang member, Hispanic, obviously. Grew up in the gangs, was dealing drugs, and he's got all the videos on it, so I'm not saying anything that he hasn't said himself. And became a ranger. His escape from that was
I think he was with 2nd ID or some unit first and deployed in support of 3rd Special Forces Group. So when you see the videos of him running and gunning in Afghanistan, he's actually not a Ranger at that time. He's like with 2nd Infantry Division or some unit. That 3rd Special Forces Group needed some more guys. So they trained up with it, and his first deployment in Afghanistan, he's like young private. You look at him, he's like a little kid, you know. He's got his, you know, birth control glasses on. He's running a saw. He's running a 40 mic grenade launcher, and he's you know, he's doing it, you know, and it's wild. And then he became a Ranger,
That's awesome.
Angel Cortez, and I just had him in for whitetail, and but you know, same kind of thing. And now he's doing the same thing. He's identified a community of people that he can link into. How many 501c3s do we need? You know, and then I like to say the difference between Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures and other things is we like to permanently affect the Rangers. And that Ranger that we found in the truck, and you're like, how did he go from there? I'd like to say that we're the catalyst. So we start it, and then we maintain a relationship. We check in. So when you go on a Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventure, we bring you in. You're in my house. I'm not taking you back to a hotel. You're watching TV with me in the evening. We're drinking beers, or we're sitting outside around the fire. My wife is making your dinner. You know, who's doing that? Who's doing that? And then when we do say goodbye, you have another friend. You have somebody you can call. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna check. I'm on your social media. Where, you know, hey, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm seeing what's going on. If I see some weird stuff, hey, you all right? How you doing? What's going on? You know, hey, here's what you need to do. Did you file like I told you to? Did you go find a vet service center in the city that you went back to? Did you get with a VSO? Did you get a copy of your medical records? Did you go into a VA and become a member in your veteran, you know, VA hospital and get a primary care provider and all this other stuff? You know, and then so that's how, in a 5-day window, if you give a shit, if you really care about the veterans that you're touching, then it becomes a lifelong relationship. And I have a lifelong relationship, and I get new friends. That's my community. Here's my purpose, and I'm building my community. The Lord is building my community. As the Lord says, hey, this Angel Cortez, like, why Angel Cortez? Angel Cortez, I was just on social media, that's how this one, and I saw his stuff, and I saw what he was trying to do, but like there was a tug, and it was like, and I kept looking at it because he's got big numbers. And so I'm like, he's good. He's got big numbers, you know. There's got to be other veterans out there that need it more than Angel Cortez. And I was like 36,000, you know, Instagram followers and all this other stuff. He's got to be good. He's got to be okay. So I pushed away. And so I'm a 3-time guy. You know, when I get 3-time in many ways. So I'll try to give you advice 3 times, and then I'll let go. When the Lord taps me on the shoulder 3 times, so boom, back to whatever, and I see a little video or I see something, and I'm like, okay. But the 3rd time that it comes in a circle, and the Lord says, this is your guy. And I'm like, boom, message, Instagram, you know, all the guys out there with 36,000 or 100,000 followers and stuff, who really reads their messages? I do. If you message on YouTube, if you message me on Facebook, Instagram, I'm the guy answering that because I'm waiting. I'm looking for the one. I'm pushing away from the 99 to find the one. And believe it or not, some of the veterans have come in the way of a comment. But for me, I reached out to Angel, who's busy. He doesn't have time, and I knew he was busy, and I knew his life was, you know, but the Lord said, like, this guy. And I said, hey, how would you like to, and that goes back to, this is a key component. A key component is, and it goes back to the Ranger that was in the truck, who had never been fishing in his life. So you're 23 to 25 years old. You joined the Army at 17, 18, 19, full circle. You played football, basketball, you had a car, you had a small job, but you didn't have a father. So you didn't have anybody to take you fishing. Nobody ever put a fishing pole in your hand. Nobody ever said, nobody, as a man, right? So your mom's raising you or whatever. And so you join the military, the guy to your left and right, your platoon sergeant becomes, your squad leader becomes the father figure. Your team leader becomes your father figure. Then your squad leader, and then your platoon sergeant, and the sergeant major, and the colonel. They become your family, right? And then when you get out, your family's gone. So you didn't have a family before you joined that gave a shit about you. The family that you had all this time in a life or death situation, which becomes even stronger than the bond you have with anybody in the outside world, which civilians definitely don't understand. Bonds that people, they can't fathom the bond that you have in that situation. Watching people die, burying people, you know, crazy stuff. And so a big thing is that guy, that ranger that was in the video, he'd never been fishing. So in the cabin, in the 5 days that I had that ranger, I'm telling the stories, I'm talking about the armor, I'm talking about how I had to take the armor off, because in order to get in there and clean out the wound, right, in order to help other people, you got to help yourself first. It's very hard to help other people when you hate yourself because you're dark, because of the things that you did or didn't do, because of the things, because like Matt, you know, the man I'm getting ready to visit, Matt Dothauer, you know Matt.
Yep.
Matt, love you, man. Sorry, I'll call you up. I'm going to be with Matt in a couple days, but we sat around the fire and we talked about it. Matt tells a very strong story about becoming dark. The first time you go, you think, every kid that grows up, every stick is a sword, every whatever is a gun, and we all want to be these knights in shining armor and run around and save the day. But when you start deploying, it quickly transitions into, especially I think on the Ranger side, that's something very Ranger specific. America's stormtroopers. There's only one reason Rangers going, and it's not like any other unit in the military. It's 100% like killers. You might not have been a killer when you got there. You might not have been a killer, but you're gonna learn how to kill, and you're gonna get really good at it. And it gets dark really fast, and you have to. These are from the stories that I'm getting from those guys. I was a Green Beret. My combat experience was completely different. This is me speaking, so I'm not speaking on my behalf.
Oh, yeah.
But Matt tells a very dark story about, but that leads back to like where you don't, you're like, who am I anymore? And do I really like this person? Take that 17, 18, 19-year-old kid and, and then now you're this, you thought you were the white knight, but you're like the dark knight now. And you're still very lethal, and you understand inside you're very lethal. So you don't, again, back to the whole, like, I don't want to hurt anybody, and because when we hurt people, we can permanently hurt people. Sorry you got jumped by 3 guys, but on a one-on-one, I bet, so Angel Cortez, but that Ranger from the truck, again, had never had, so for me, in 5 days, there's pictures of it, put a fly rod in this kid's hand. That was back when I had 30%. So 30%, Ricky Mills, not 100%. I didn't have any waders. It's April, but I'm a Ranger. And you know what Rangers can do? We suck it up. So I've been in the swamps of Fort Stewart, at 30 degrees, freezing my ass off. I'm a winter Ranger, so I was in Florida phase in December. I was in Florida, so I can sew my Ranger tab on with white thread if I want to. But so here we are. There's pictures of us out there. I just got done looking through all my stuff to see but there wasn't anything. I wanted to, for this Ranger, I wanted to make sure that, the other thing that we do is make sure that we're very secretive with guys that need that. So we're not throwing out names unless the guy gives us permission, unless unless the relationship is there, like an Angel Cortez or a Matt Bathauer. But I haven't said the guy's name yet. That's up to him. But to have him see this 23 to 25-year-old guy built like a brick shit house, he's Universal Soldier, and he's standing knee deep in a creek with a fly rod, and I'm instructing him, and he hooks into a fish. And now, like, I'm more excited than he is, because he's doing his thing, and I'm like, rod tip high, keep the pressure on it, blah blah blah, and he's like, and it's the moments like that where I'm like, the Lord did that, man. And he's standing there. Here's this guy with this, say 16-inch brown trout, and I'm there. My son's in the background, and it's life changing. But it's the fires and the I talk about the highs and lows of life. That's a whole nother story that we can talk about next if we have time. But the armor, taking the armor off, learning to like yourself again, which is it's a journey. It's about, in the struggle is the story. I like to say that. In the struggle is the story. So your struggle, every one of our struggles is a story. You're just further in the journey than that guy was. You're further in the journey than Ranger X, who just got his Ranger for Life brief, who is not going to go and join the Three Rangers Foundation, who's not going to, because he's still in, and he cannot have a chink in his armor. Because what if they get called up again, and I'll cancel I'm not going to get out, I'm not going to PCS, I'm not going to ETS, so I'm not going to go seek any help for any of my physical, mental, or emotional injuries that I have, that I know I have, because I'm having mental meltdowns. It's inside. I look at people, I'm 6'2", 210 pound, former Green Beret, 6 years in the Rangers, and people look at me, and they're like, holy shit. Many times I've been in situations where guys they're bucking up and they're like gonna hit me, and they're like, dude, but they don't want to open up that can of worms. They're like, they're in their own mind, but inside I'm having a Raynaud's breakdown. Inside Rick Mills, I'm a little chihuahua in the corner, shaking, and nobody knows. I'm sweating. All my blood is pooling out of my extremities into my core. I'm going into like just now. I'm sweating. I get it. It's Raynaud's. I got that. I didn't have it before. My head went off the windshield. It's just one of the things. But I'm a little, I'm like, and people don't see that. They see Superman, but I'm like inside myself. I'm like, I'm not that guy anymore. But to finish out Angel Cortez, in that thing, when I contacted Angel the first time through Instagram and I messaged him at 36,000, I did not expect to have an answer back. But I said, hey, my name's Rick Mills, former 175 guy, and I assumptions are bad. Assumptions get people killed. But I made the quick guess that Angel Cortez from Orange County, California, grew up as a gangbanger, dealing drugs, joined the military to get out of that, had never been fishing in his life, and it had never had a bow, never. How much male mentorship did he have to keep him out of, And so I said, hey man, you wanna come up and hunt whitetails? And the video's on the Jaeger veteran. So we flew him in, picked him up at the airport, and he was a little nervous showing up. I'm always a little nervous, but I know how the process runs. And so I meet him, and it's immediate. The bond is already there. He's a Ranger, I'm a Ranger, and we just flowed, and it was great. And I think Angel made a video. You can go look at his channel, or you can look at the Jaeger veteran event. And he said, the 5 days was life changing, and it took him back. The goal is to let the guys leave after 5 days with more tools in their kit bag than they had when they showed up. A lot of guys don't have any. That's the end of the road.
So if guys want to get in touch with you, because if a guy's struggling, they want something with the outdoors. Take me. So if it's me, and we're not sitting here like this,
but
how do I get from I'm sitting at home drinking alone, I'm sad, I'm miserable, I hear about Wild Jaeger and this 5-day program. Take me from step one to how do I apply it to getting you see me off?
It all it is send me make a comment on a YouTube video, send me a message on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. You can go through the main route and email me, but you don't need to do that. You just it's that simple. I'm the guy answering all the messages and the emails. The YouTube comments, I answer every one of the messages or answers from the Wild Jaeger or Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures YouTube channel. You're talking to Ricky Mills.
So once a veteran contacts you, what happens next?
Then I'll if depending on what it is, back to the store, back to closing my door, back to, hey, let's go have lunch. Oh, hey, you ever shoot a bow? It turns into that. It turns into me not being, the Ranger SF guy who's running 100 miles an hour broad external. It turns into Rick Mills giving 100% of myself to that veteran right then. Because I don't know where he's at. He might be sitting in his room with a pistol right next to him.
And it doesn't matter where they're at.
I don't care where they're at. I don't care where they're at. It takes time.
Yeah.
It's not like you're gonna come in right now, but sometimes it gives time. It gives in my world of taking all the armor off and getting rid of the highs and lows with my traumatic brain injury, my entire life now, the things that I'm trying to do with the videos is try to put things in guys' kit bags. You're living life X under a bridge or in your place with this and your thoughts and the things that you're having. Have you thought of, cut back on the self-medicating, hydrate more, go to the gym, find a sense of purpose, join this. But getting it on the calendar, saying, hey man, you called me, how you doing? Undivided attention. Well, I've got this turkey hunt coming up in the spring. We got turkey hunt, we have trout fishing, we do fly fishing in central New York. I have 9 Mile Creek. There's a big story with that, with John McCollum when we were kids. But 9 Mile Creek is 10 minutes from my house. I hunt whitetails out the back door of my house.
Oh,
so I have access to 60 acres behind my house. Matt Bodauer, the video, again, the guy had his whitetail mount in my car. 2 days from now, I'm going to drive up and deliver Matt Bodauer's whitetail.
Nice.
We walk out, I have 2 acres, my neighbor lets me hunt the 10 acres behind that, and then I lease 48 acres behind that, and then I have access to some other land that I don't talk about, public land. So we do private land and we do some public land stuff. Right now, thank you Lord, I still knock on wood, even though I'm a Christian, I still knock on wood, it's just, it's there. Right now, we're I'd say 100%. With guys catching fish and getting a turkey or getting a whitetail. But it's not about the turkey, it's not about the whitetail. And any veteran that's ever come into our house and slept in our bed and ate our food and sat around the fire with us, I think we'll honestly say it's about the time. It's about the love. It's about the I'm not alone. It's about the oh wow, holy cow, I'm not the only one going through this. And I again, the Lord is preparing you for what He has prepared for you. Why? I stay away from the word why. For some reason, when I got hit by that car, 30 March 2007, I'm Captain Ricky Mills. I just had my branch brief. You're gonna be a Special Forces Company commander. I'm gonna be in charge of, I'm gonna be a Special Forces. I'm gonna be 6 A teams are gonna be, I'm gonna be a B team commander. I'm gonna have 6 ODAs. I'm gonna deploy to Africa, wherever, Iraq, maybe Afghanistan. The fight was still going on in, say, 2009, 2010. I'm gonna be a company commander. I just had that brief a couple days before. Here's your purpose. Here's your community. You're locked in. And it was like, okay, you need to network and figure out, which was easy. I'm just gonna call my previous company commander, who's now gonna become a battalion commander of either 210 or 310. And you need to get in shape because you're gonna be leading Green Berets. So you gotta be Green Beret in shape, And my thing for that was, well, I live 35 miles away from Camp McCall. I'm going to drive my car and then I'm going to ride home, then I'm going to ride back the next day and then whatever. I didn't make it home on the first bike ride. I don't even remember. And then in that I lost a lot of long-term memories. I had to learn how to talk again.
How long did
I
that
got
take?
jarred. It was weird. So I ended up having Raynaud's, which I never had before, which was really weird.
I'm crying or screaming and I don't know why. I'm outside myself. So when I would be yelling at my kids or my wife or whatever, when I started seeing a psychologist or TBI clinic and everything, I'm like, I'm over here. Why? When I'm yelling at my kid because they're not doing it fast enough and they're not doing it to standard, you know, I was that guy. I didn't have PTSD until I got hit in the head. I don't have any issue with anything that I did to anybody. Because of the kid that I was a very angry person when I joined the military, and I knew I wanted to go hurt people. You know, back to that, after the accident, the one thing that I realized that I said to myself when I woke up, and the chain of command said, you know, I never have to hurt anybody ever again. Why did those thoughts come into my mind? When I was the guy that I knew I could hurt people because I was so hurt, as I knew how to hurt people. And it wasn't hard. I didn't have PTSD until my head went off that car. And that's why I like to talk to veterans. If you fired the 50 cal way too much, if you fired Gustavs way too much, if you're in an IED, a lot of veterans have a traumatic brain injury and they don't have issues with anything that they did downrange. Good on you, man. Good on you. But you can't understand why you don't recognize yourself anymore. You look in the mirror and you're like, I don't know that guy anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. And the guy I am, nobody likes. Everybody's sticking their finger in my face and telling me like I'm the bad guy. So I'm going to remove myself from society and I'm going to go live under a bridge, or I'm going to isolate whatever little money I have, you know, and isolate, remove myself from society, put the armor on, you know. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, no, but yeah, so major TBI, I didn't have PTSD, you know, but Raynaud's and the C1 fracture, C4 fracture, L5S1, I had to learn how to walk again. I had a tib, so I had opposing injuries, broke my elbow, broke my arm, broke my leg, tib fracture. What happened was I was riding on the road to Aberdeen. I have the accident thing, and I was riding my bicycle on the side of the road, and there was a guy in like a car, but he was following a truck that was pulling a horse trailer. So he couldn't see anything. And of course, it's 15-501 between Camp McCall and Aberdeen. Everybody, it's rush time traffic. It's after work. I'm on my way home. I don't know why I was on that road. Why did I make the decision to do that? Real stupid. But so the truck pulling the horse trailer goes by me, and what I heard is the old guy, it's a senior citizen, Southern Pines, Pinehurst, his major retirement community. Old guy reaches down and he needed something off the floorboard on the passenger side of the car. So he reaches down on the floorboard and he goes like this. And right there, when his car veers off the road, I was there. So if you picture a car running into a bicycle on this side, first connection, vehicle hit my leg, popped my leg, tib fib fracture, torn PCL, ACL, boom, back off, my butt hits the hood, L5S1 fracture, compressed vertebrae, everything, my back hit, 6 ribs fracture, partial hemopneumothorax, blood's flowing into my lungs, collapsing the lung, air and blood, boom, my head hits the windshield, breaks the helmet, fractures my skull, C1, C4 fracture, and I die.
Wow.
C1 fracture, you're dead. It's a light switch. And then my body goes off the car, and it threw me 100 feet. My lifeless body.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was a nurse 2 cars back, jumped out of her car, ran over, and started doing CPR. I didn't have like, I'm a big NDE guy, near-death experience guy. I watch a lot of the NDEs. I don't know why I didn't have an NDE, or maybe I had an NDE and I don't remember it. I'm like, all right, Lord.
Yeah.
I did wake up in the ambulance one time, and so, you know, I'm an EMTI from back in the day in Ranger Battalion and all this other stuff. So I couldn't see. Obviously, I'd been hit in the heart so bad that my eyes didn't work. There's no reason to cover anybody's eyeballs or anything. And so I'm laying there in the van. I can't see. It's all black, blacker than like when I close my eyes, I see red. No, it's black. Can't see anything. And the paramedics in the vehicle, female, she's screaming at me. She's like, "Mr. Mills," and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, you've been in a vehicle accident, sirens are going, she's working on whatever bags and all kinds of stuff. She's probably working on, whatever she's gonna jab. You've got a partial hemopneumothorax, you've been in a vehicle accident, I may have to put a chest tube in. And the chest tube hurts.
Wow, yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, that's gonna hurt. And so I'm laying there in the vehicle, and I'm like, so we're talking. Yes, Mr. Mills. So you can hear me. Yes, Mr. Mills. She's working on her shit. I can visualize it. And I'm like, well, if we're talking, you probably don't need to put a chest tube in. And you hear her voice go, and she ramps down. She goes, yeah, you're probably right. She puts all her stuff away. And then I woke up 3 days later with my chain of command standing over me, and the doctors telling me, you're never gonna be the same person ever again. You're never gonna walk. The crazy stuff that they said. You're never gonna walk on an uneven surface ever again. You're never gonna be able to do this. I couldn't talk, I literally couldn't talk. I was on a morphine drip. The only reason we're talking is because they would take the morphine drip away from me. And I was in so much pain. I was in the pain scale of 1 to 9, when I would come out of that morphine, if I didn't have the morphine and there was something there that I could end that pain, that's the kind of the suicidal. I try to explain to people that can't understand, the physical pain or emotional pain or mental pain that's a level 11 or 12.
Wow.
Because as a ranger, I'm sure you'll agree, and I'm sure anybody out there, if you're a Green Beret, a lot of special ops community, I can function at a level 9. I can go on road marches, CAG selection, I did it, finished it, no problem. Selection, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Easy, that stuff was easy for me. I can get to a level 9 and function. Level 10 is where you lay down and they need to come pick you up. But in life, where you can't control it, you're not in control. So imagine for our viewers out there, can you imagine the only emotional / mental pain I would say is a parent losing a child type pain.
Wow.
On the physical side, I was 11 or 12. And so let's talk about substance abuse a little bit. It's kind of full circle back to where we started with you. When it comes to gaining credibility and legitimacy with the veterans, I even can go there because believe it or not, a lot of veterans, again, they get injured, they're put on morphine, they get out of the military. I already told that story, and now they turn to street drugs, and now I find them and I bring them in. But they have to want it first.
Help yourself.
They have to somehow make the decision that they want to, because that's where you're on your last straw. It's it. There's nothing there. Send me a message. Message me. Let's
That
talk.
easy.
It's that easy. Let's talk. If it's that much of a situation, I'm not gonna. We're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna figure it out together. Can I get to you? Can somebody I know get to you? Can we get you? Are you on the street? What's your situation? But no permanent solutions to temporary problems, But to be able to sit there with a veteran and go, I know, because when I woke up, and I've been here with several veterans, I know what that's like to be at a level 12 pain, to come out. When I would come out, and this was for 5 or 6 days, I went from, say, my fighting weight is 185 pounds. I'm 210 now. My fighting weight as a ranger / Green Beret / Ironman triathlete, everything is 185. I function, I can go all day. Back then, my brain, everything, I can go. So that's what I was at. I was on a morphine drip and I didn't eat anything. I didn't take in 1 calorie for 5 or 6 days. So say day 6, I come out, and every time I would come out, it felt like somebody took a sledgehammer and hit me in the back of the head.
Ugh.
Like it just happened. Not 30 seconds later or a minute later where it gets better, or 5 minutes later where the pain's gonna go away. It felt like somebody just hit me with the sledgehammer. And that's the pain I was in the back of my head. It was a car. My head just went out the window, the car. So I come out of it on like day 6, and previously I would come out 2, 3, 4 times a day. You know, they had me on the thing, and they got you. You know, they know what to put the drip at where they're not killing you. And so like I would wake up and something would happen, and I'm like, and I'd feel around and I'd grab it, and boom, I'd put myself out again. And it's that fast, man. You push that button,
Yeah, it's
you're gone.
immediate. Yeah.
You're gone. I was like, holy cow, this is beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I was in La La Land, but what happened was I lost 25 pounds of that old man, what I call old man muscle and sinew. I went from 185 pounds, steely-eyed, you know, killer, Superman, to 160 pound. All that muscle's gone. All the tendons and ligaments had decayed. My body had eaten itself. I was thin, you know, and then I had the emotional control issues and all that stuff, and I don't even recognize myself anymore, you know. And so on day like 6, I wake up and the pain's there, and I've never told this on camera before, and it's a hard story, so I'm going to do better now than I normally do. Normally I break down when I tell the story because it's really emotionally hard, but it'll help you. It helps me, and I believe it helps other people recognize why do veterans or why do service members, how do they end up on the street? How do they end up under bridges with needles in their arms and stuff? They're escaping something. They're trying to get away from something. They've removed themselves from society, and they got to go somewhere. They got to find a place to be and go to get away from that level 11, 12, whatever the hell it is. And so here's the nurse, and she's holding it like a carrot, and I was powerless. And she's got a 100-calorie Ensure shake, and she's got the thing she's dangling from me, and this female had all the power in the world. She was the most powerful person in the world in that moment, in that room, in that bed. I just wanted it. I had to have it. Please give it to me. Please give it to me. And she's like, I'm crying right now. That's how I was crying then, in that moment. I'm like, it hurts so bad. Please give it to me. It hurts so bad. She's like, you gotta drink this shake, and then I'll give it to you. And she gave it to me, and I sucked it down, and she gave it to me, and boom, I was gone.
Oh, wow, man.
So I know, man. So when Veteran X, you know, and I'm sitting around the fire, and he's like, man, I was, you know, and when it got out, didn't have access, turned to street drugs. And again, just because they're homeless and doing that does not mean in every one of those people, there's probably a good person somewhere. Not everybody. There's evil on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
There is evil. There is evil on this planet. And you can find it. It needs to be dealt with. So I love all my veterans that went out and did bad things to bad people, you know, because evil needs to be dealt with. America needs its soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. We need them. The best of America, and we're taking the best of America and we're having them go do it because the 99% can't do it or won't do it. But when they come home, we owe it to them to take care of them. And how many 501c3s do we need? How many not-for-profit veteran support organizations? I don't know. When we find the last guy, when the United States government stops making disabled veterans and stops, you know,
Or fulfills their end of the deal and actually does help us.
it's never going to happen. But for that guy to, you know, for me to tell that story, and that's the pinnacle. So of all the things that I have to go through and stories that I have to tell, I love all veterans. I stay away from my Ranger Rick time. I stay away from my Special Forces time unless it's like in the story. So Matt Bathhour, you know, we can sit around and tell Ranger stories. You know, if I link into a Green Beret, I try to gain credibility and legitimacy on the Green Beret side. If it's just a regular soldier, I was in 3rd AD for 3 years. I was as a 2nd lieutenant, right out of Ranger Battalion with a butter bar on it. I went to Korea, you know, so I can talk about my time in Korea and gain that. But in the telling of stories and stuff, it's about, and then letting them talk, and then as they tell stories about, well, my wife left me and I'm broke, and all, you know, the money that I do have is going, you know, well, I can see you have, you know, in the 3 days that we've spent together so far, we've already identified that you've got tinnitus, ringing in the ears, you frapped in on a jump and broke your elbow or this, and you got pain, you're limping and all this other. Have you filed for that stuff? No. So what we try to do is we do the hunt. They have a friend now. The community, the Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures community grew by one veteran. And then we maintain contact and we start walking them through. Okay, you're in Cincinnati, Ohio. I go on my thing. Here's the Cincinnati, Ohio Vet Center. I need you to go down. I need you to walk in. I need you to go to the desk and say, hey, I'm veteran X. I was in the military at this time. Here's my DD 214. I would like to make an appointment to see a veteran service officer. And then, you know, your medical paperwork and start filing stuff and start getting some compensation, financial compensation, but and for that stuff. Increase. What I like to say with a lot of veterans when I find them in that situation is look where you're at right now. Wherever you're at. If you're living under a bridge and you have nothing, you're at the lowest that you're going to be now. Don't quit, because we're only going to get better from here. We're going to get you 10% for tinnitus, which is $176. And then we're going to get you, you know, whatever for your PTSD, maybe 70% for your PTSD. And if we get you to 100%, that's $4,000 right now. And it's not about the money, right? It's about whatever, because why else would you go live under a bridge? But I just, to finish out this video, for anybody that's thinking about, you know, Wild Jaeger 501c3s, I just did my financial accounting, and every year for the last 2 years, on top of the donations and having access to a Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures, you know, debit card that I can pay for meals and pay for a plane ticket for Angel Cortez to fly in, take him out to dinner, get him a New York State non-resident hunting license and all that stuff. I still put $4,500 of my own money into the business. Wow. last year.
Thank you for that.
And the year before that, it was 5,600. You know, so I want to thank you, man, for letting me come in.
Of course, man.
All right, brother.
Thanks for sharing, man.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Hopefully we can get on the boat tomorrow.
I'm hoping do a little fishing. I've been watching your videos and I'm like, that would be cool.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully,
cool.
hopefully that cold front pushes through early on.
Thanks for sharing some time, man.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully we touched some people.
I'm sure it will, dude. I'm sure it will. Like you said, I like what you said, as long as it touches one. As long as it touches one.
2026 is going to be the year that Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures is going to be searching out one veteran advocate in each state in the United States. What we're looking for are veterans that may have had issues previously with their sense of purpose and the loss of community that they had when they left the military. Maybe that have already overcome those challenges and find that their sense of purpose is helping other veterans. If that sounds like you, if you're social media savvy, maybe already doing some videoing, maybe already helping veterans in the background in your state, but you don't have a very large footprint or large voice to make that happen, Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures wants to accept you into our family of veteran advocates and give you a better reach and a louder voice for the veterans in your state. Federal veterans benefits aside, each state has different/separate veterans benefits that can affect the veterans in your state. I'm here in New York. Some examples of New York State specific veterans benefits our STAR program, which deals with property tax, a deduction in property tax, and a deduction from the school taxes that a veteran pays when you're at 100% service-connected disabled rate. Another example of a veteran's benefit specific to New York State is the no-fee vehicle registration at 100%. And a third veteran's benefit that most people haven't heard of, that we've already done some videos on, is the free Easy Pass, which allows you in the state of New York to drive up and down the throughways on Highway 90 with no fees. If you're a veteran, again, and you're already familiar with some of the state-specific veteran programs, you're exactly what we're looking for.
If this sounds exciting to you, if this sounds like something that you want to jump into or you want to be a part of, some of the stipulations are you're going to have social media. Specifically, you're going to have a Facebook page. That's where we have our group chat room where we discuss team internal specifics. Right now, Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures is in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Georgia/Florida. But we're looking for a representative, an advocate, veterans advocate specifically, in each of the other states in the United States. If being a part of the Wild Jaeger Veteran Adventures Veteran Advocate team sounds interesting to you, you can get a hold of me at r.mills@wildjaeger.com and we can discuss or get together for a quick video chat and see if you're the right fit for our organization.